What is cheap now in the context of the fulfillment of the milkshake theory, commodity supercycle, short-term Fed anticipated reversal? What's cheap? I don't think anything is really cheap, but that's okay. And I think that's the lesson that we can learn is that, I talk about lessons from Jim Rogers all the time. And one is buy cheap, sell expensive, or buy low, sell high. One is buy panic, sell hysteria. And another is just simply, if there's nothing to do, don't do anything. And that's hard. We again, it just goes back to the last question. We want to be proactively, well, I got to make something happen. I can't just be in cash. I'm losing purchasing power. I gotta do, okay, well, this isn't the best. It's not perfect. It's not cheap, but I'll just put my money in that just because I need something. And then we rationalize it. Well, I needed an inflation hedge. And then you rationalize, you lose 20%. You're like, well, it wasn't my fault. It's that stupid Fed. It's this, it's that. It's the central planners. I couldn't keep my cash in the bank account. The banking system is too insolvent. Or, pick your excuse. What we tend to do as humans is we make an irrational decision. And then after we've already made it, then we try to rationalize it. That decision we've made. Try not to do that. And try to recognize when you have the urge to maybe be proactive and take action when there's just flat out nothing to do. This is why I always say that being an entrepreneur is pretty much the opposite of being a good investor. Whereas an entrepreneur, you got to take the bull by the horns. You got to make it happen, so to speak. And investing, you've got to do the opposite. You've got to sit and do nothing until that big pile of money shows up in the corner and you go pick it up. But that could be once every 2 years, maybe longer. I don't know. But there isn't something that's just always super, super cheap. And that's why I think having a watch list is so important. So if you're asking me what's on my watch list, yeah, commodities, agriculture, long-term super cycle, gold, silver, gold miners, uranium, coal, all these things I like over the next 10, 15 years. But it doesn't necessarily mean they're cheap now. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm out there buying them. Just very, very content doing nothing. I'll tell you one thing I did buy, Brandon, is I bought 1 year treasuries. So I don't know if you guys saw this on the Rebel Capitalist channel the other day, because I made the video private after Josh and I did the live stream. And because we're just going to use it as like they call it a lead magnet. And it's just something that I put in the description of the video just to give you guys something free to sign up to the email list, which benefits me because then I've got something that I kind of own and isn't at the mercy of the social media overlords. But anyway, what I'm doing for Rebel Capitalist Pro, and what I did a portion of this for this lead magnet, is I put $100,000 into a brokerage account. And then I'm just investing my own $100,000 and letting you guys watch, or the people who are members of Rebel Capitalist Pro. And I'm just putting it up there in real time as to what I'm doing, kind of what my thoughts are. If I sell something, if I buy something, I'll probably put a watch list up there as well. But the first thing that I did for that live stream is I just bought 1 year treasuries because with the dry powder. So you guys know I do a 10-80-10 portfolio. So with the investment side, the 80%, I just took, so it'd be $80,000. I just bought like 50,000 worth of 1 year T-bills. And so the rationale there was simply you can get it for 3% basically. And is it better? Does it have a positive real yield? No. But it's got a better yield than cash, that's for sure. And I think that the odds are good that the Fed is going to lower rates. They could raise them in July, of course, but maybe September going into next year, they could lower them. And I don't know that's priced into the 1 year. So also too, that dry powder is there for commodities. So in a world where the Fed is continuing to raise rates, I don't know if commodities get cheap enough for me to buy them, because that would imply that the CPI is still relatively high. I think when the Fed starts lowering rates, that means the CPI is potentially coming down, and potentially the commodities are going down even further, which would bring them into an area where I would consider them cheap and I start buying. So that's just me kind of saying, why not? Why not just take some cash and buy 1-year T-bills? Because if the commodities get cheap, most likely the 1-year is going to be trading less than 3%. So you have a capital gain, and then you sell to get the dollars to buy the commodities, and you get a little bit of a pop there. And worst case scenario, the commodities don't get cheap and you get paid 3% instead of having it in a bank account where you get paid basically 0%. So that's just one thing that I did the other day. I'm not saying they're quote unquote cheap, not panic. It doesn't apply to any of those rules. I just think it's a prudent place to put some dry powder right now. And the counterparty risk obviously is less than the banking system. So that's the kind of, but when I start building out that portfolio, I'll do it within Rebel Capitals Pro. So you guys kind of, I'll do live stream videos in there. So you guys kind of watch me like over my shoulder, and we do the screen capture. So you guys can see like what I'm actually talking. And then Josh is in the IB account, just like clicking on like the other day when we bought the 50 grand in treasuries, Josh was in there like clicking the buttons, and I was just kind of talking him through it while everyone was watching me. So